In this video, I'm going to show you how easy it is to create your first presentation, as well as everything else you need to know to get started using ProPresenter. But before we dig into the actual program, I want to explain to you how ProPresenter actually generates its content. Now, ProPresenter is based on the idea of layers, similar to Photoshop or other programs that stack multiple layers to create one image. In ProPresenter, we have 6 different layers. The first layer is our background color, followed by live video, where any live video content can be shown. Then we have our video playback layer, which includes things like backgrounds and foreground videos. Then we have slides for all of our slide content and text. Then on top of that, we have our props layer, which is a persistent object, and you can use this for logos or notifications that you want on the screen for an extended period of time. And then finally, we have our masking layer, which allows us to cut down our projection and mask it to fit architectural environments or onto specific objects or different shapes or sizes. Now, the reason I tell you about this is because all of these layers can be controlled independently, which creates really powerful presentations. So now that we understand how our content is generated, let's dig inside ProPresenter. Now, if you're not familiar with the ProPresenter interface, let me give you a quick overview. At the top here, we have a toolbar that gives us quick access to different functionality and features, and this is customizable, so I'm going to right-click and go to Customize Toolbar, and we can add different functions and features to this, and you can find in-depth tutorials about all of those different features. Now, over here on the left, we actually have a preview area, so we can click with confidence knowing exactly what's showing on our output. So if I click on this slide, it will show on our output and we'll see a preview of it. But not only is it a preview of what's on our output, it's also a preview of what's on our stage display if we have that feature enabled. So I'm going to hover over here and we can toggle our stage display preview, and now when I click, you'll see exactly what's being shown on our stage display. Now, below this preview area, we have our library, and our library contains all of our different documents, songs, teaching notes, announcement loops, slideshow. Any sort of document that you create is stored in this library, and you can have multiple different libraries with different documents, and all of this is easily searchable. And below there, we have a playlist area where you can add different documents and media to a playlist for your different events. And if you use Planning Center Online, you can automate the creation of these playlists by using Planning Center Online playlists. Next, over here, we have our document area where we can click through slides. So I can put up this background and we can start clicking through our different slides, and we can go in order, or we can click around and go to different slides in the playlist. So I can click through these slides in any order that I want. Now, below the slides area, you'll see a couple icons here, and these are for transitions. And I'm going to open up our video and image bin to help us understand these a little bit better. Now, we talked about how ProPresenter creates its content by stacking layers. Now, these transitions apply to these different layers. So this is the global transition for our slide layer. So we can change this right now. It's set to a dissolve for 1 second, but we could change this to any of the other options. And then down here, you'll see the global transition for our video and image bin, and this is also set to a 1 second dissolve. You also have the option to set a transition per document. So over here, I could change the transition for this particular document, and you can actually set transitions per slide and even each object on a slide. So if I click on this background and play it back, you'll see the video plays back with that global transition. But if I change this to fade to black, you'll see when I click on this next background here, it's going to fade down to black and then fade up. And again, our text is just using that fade transition, but I could change this to something different like a push transition. And now when I click on the slides, you'll see it pushes the text across the screen. So it's using these different transitions here. Now, you'll notice I clicked on this Clear All button that clears out all of our content, but we also have clearing buttons for our specific layers. So again, if I play this video back and then I throw some text on top of it, we can hit the Clear Slides button, which will clear out the slide layer, and then I also have an option to clear out the background layer. And I can do this in any order I want, so I could clear out my background first, and then I could go find a new background that I want to have play back, and then maybe I clear out my slide layer, so I can do this in any order. I'm just going to reset these transitions back to dissolve. And then let's take a closer look at our video and image bin. Now you might not have any content in your video and image bin, so let's add some new content, and this is really easy. You can either drag from a Finder window, or I'm just going to use this add icon here. So in here I have a folder of backgrounds. I'm just going to select all the backgrounds that I want and hit open. It's going to add them into our background bin, and if we scroll down to the bottom here, you'll see all of my new backgrounds have been added. The other thing that you might notice is these little dots that we have in the corner of some of our backgrounds. And these are for tagging. And tagging allows us to sort our different backgrounds by type. So if I go over here, I can look at my nature backgrounds. And these are any backgrounds that have nature in them or high energy. So I've gone ahead of time and tagged these. So we could go back down to some of our new stuff and I could say, well, this is a nature background. I can just right click and I can find my nature tag and add that tag to that background. You'll see it's applied it. Now if I wanted to add a new tag to something, I can right click on it and I can add a new custom tag. You can also help organize your media over here by adding new playlists, new hot folders, and new group folders. We also have an area for foreground video and images. So this is perfect for things like mini movies, video clips, or title graphics we want to show. And we can specify transitions to use for these different video clips by right-clicking and going to transitions, and we can apply specific transitions to an individual clip. So if we wanted this to use a fade to black, we can set that here and it will always use that fade to black, and globally it will use a regular dissolve transition for everything else. Plus, in the video and image bin, we have an option to apply different effects to our video clips so that we can customize them to meet our needs. So all you have to do is right click and go to Media Properties, and then over here on the far right, you'll see all the different effects you can apply to your media. So now that we understand the basics of the interface and how to add content, let's actually create some content. So I'm going to close out our video and image bin, then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to add a new item. We're going to create some song lyrics, and we're going to call this Amazing Grace. And then we have a few options here. So our first option is our template, and this will help us format our text and our slide appropriately. So we can go down here and I'm going to go to lyric styles, and I'm just going to use this Helvetica full page template. And then we can set what category this is. So Amazing Grace actually is a hymn, so we could set this to hymn or presentation or any of the other categories, and you can add more categories in your preferences. So I'm going to set that to hymn, and then we can set what size we want our slides to be. And we're going to go with 720p or 1280 by 720, but you can add different sizes here or custom sizes. And then we'll just hit new. So we have our new document here, but to edit our document, we need to go over to the editor, and then we can double click on our slide to start editing. Now I'm going to type in this song, but you can also import existing songs or bring in lyrics from the Song Select database. I'm going to speed up my process of typing so you don't have to sit and watch me type out an entire song. Now that I've finished typing that first slide, we actually need to add one more slide in. So I'm going to go down over here and we're going to click on the add icon, and that will add a new slide. We also have an option to add a new slide using a different template, but since I want to use the same template, all I needed to do was hit add. So now I can start typing my second verse. And I added one more slide for my third verse. So now let's close out of the editor. I'm just going to hit the X icon here, and now let's label these slides. So we can label our slides so we know what we're clicking on, and we're just going to right click and we're going to go to Group Label, and we're going to create a group label called Verse 1. Now this is going to apply to all of these different slides, but we can easily break this up into different groups. So I'm going to right click here and I'm going to go to New Group and go to Verse 2, and then on the last one, right click and go to Verse 3. Now that we have the sections of the song set up, we actually can create an arrangement of this song just like a musician would. And to create an arrangement, I'm going to go up here and click on this button here, which is the Arrangements button, and we can create a new arrangement. So I'm going to create a new arrangement, and we're going to call this Traditional. And by default, it's put in all of these different tokens that we have available, but we can arrange and add different tokens and change the order of it. So for our traditional version of Amazing Grace, we actually do verse 1, verse 2, verse 3, and then we go back to verse 1 at the very end. So instead of having to retype verse 1, all I have to do is drag this token down and it will add in verse 1. And because we're using these different tokens, if I adjust something on verse 1 here, it will adjust it on the verse 1 over here. So we only have to edit it in one place. Now you can make multiple arrangements of your song here, so let's go back to the editor, and I want to add in a chorus because sometimes we actually do a less traditional version where we actually throw in a chorus. So again, I'm going to right click on this to set this as our chorus. So I'm going to go to New Group and I'm going to set this to Chorus. And so now we're creating this chorus here, and I'm going to type this in. Now I'm also going to add 2 more slides here, and you'll see what these are for in just a second. So I'm going to close out of the editor, and then we're going to apply some new labels to these to use for our arrangement. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to go to New Group, and I'm going to go to Other, and I'm going to change this to a background so that we can have a place to put our background in. Now we can apply a color to this, and we have an option to save this label for future use. I don't really want a color for this, so I'm just going to leave it as is and hit OK. And then we're going to do one more, and we're going to have this be a blank slide for times that we don't want text on the screen. So again, we'll go to New Group, Other, and we're going to type in blank and hit OK. So now that we have all the different groups or sections of our song set up, we can create another arrangement. So I'm going to go back up here, create a new arrangement, and we'll call this My Chains because this is the My Chains Are Gone version, and hit OK. And now we can reorganize these. So I want to start with a background, so we have a spot to put our background in, and then in this version we do verse 1, verse 2, and then the chorus. And then we do verse 3, another chorus, and we actually have a jam section, so we'll leave the blank there. Then we'll do another chorus, and then we'll put another blank at the very end so that we can clear out the text while the band is finishing the song. So now that we have this arrangement done, we can look and see that we have our 2 different arrangements. If I wanted to, I could go back in here and we could maybe add a background to this, and maybe we want a blank slide at the end of the song here. So that one's all set up for us as well. So let's go to the My Chains version, and let's add in a background here to this. And adding in background media is very, very simple. So all we need to do is open up our video and image bin. I can find a background that fits this song, so let's move this down so we can see it a little bit better. Let's go with a subtle background because this is kind of a slower paced song. So I'm going to grab this modern flow background here, and we can now click on that and play our song back with our text. Now let's actually add this to a playlist. So we're going to go down here to our playlist area, and let's create a new playlist. You'll also notice we have options to create new documents here. We can create new group folders to put multiple playlists inside. We can import Planning Center Online playlists, and we can grab new headers for our playlist. So first, let's create a playlist. I'm just going to call this our event playlist. And now we can add a song to our playlist. So let's grab Amazing Grace, and we'll drag this in. And we can actually click on this, and we can right click and choose an arrangement. So I'm going to choose the traditional version that we might use at the beginning of our event. We can drag in one more, and we can choose a different arrangement, maybe the My Chains arrangement. Now that we have those songs in here, let's actually scroll up in the library here. Let's find Alive, and we'll drag that into our playlist. So now we have this in here, and maybe we could search for another document to bring in. So let's bring in another song like Oceans, and we can drag that in here. Now let's organize our playlist a little bit better with some headers. So let's create a new header, and we'll just click on this, hit enter, and we'll title this Song Set. And let's move this to the top. And let's say our song set starts with the traditional version of Amazing Grace, and then we go into Oceans and Alive, and then we end with our newer, more modern version of My Chains. So we have that going on, and then next let's add another header for our teaching. So let's add a new header. Drag this down here to the bottom, click enter, and we'll call this teaching. So now let's actually create some teaching notes for our playlist. So let's go over here, and we'll create a new document, and we'll name this Notes. And then we'll go up here and we'll select our category of presentation because this isn't a song. Our size is fine, but let's choose a different template. Now there's a lot of great templates included, so let's go down to Impact, and we'll use this title page text for our template to start with, and we'll hit New. Now we can go into the editor and we can start editing this document here. So let's add our title in here of Elevated is going to be our title, and then we can put in some subtext here, Journey to the Peak. So now we have a title graphic here, but let's actually create some more teaching notes. So I'm going to go down here, and instead of just adding another version of our title graphic, I'm going to add one with a new template. So I'm going to go to Impact, and I'm going to add this full page text. So now we can click on this slide, and we can add a title for this slide. So we can say like First Steps. Then we can go in here, and we can say Step 1, Step 2, Step 3. So now we have that text here, and if we wanted to move this around, we could move this down a little bit or move this over. We can adjust it however we want. Now let's say for this presentation we actually wanted to add some scripture passages from the Bible. Now this is really simple. All we have to do is go up here to Bibles, and then we'll see a drop down where we can choose which translation we want to use from Bibles that you've previously installed. And then we can search for a specific passage, search by keyword, or I'm just going to use this drop down. I'm going to go down to Proverbs, and we're just going to use Proverbs 1:1, let's say. Now this isn't the template that I want to use, so I'm going to go in here, I'm going to go to Slide Options and choose a different template. So we're going to go back down to Impact, and we're going to use this quote template that works great for Scripture. Now all we have to do to add this to a document is make sure our document's selected. So I'm just going to clear out our search here. We're going to make sure our notes are selected, and then I'm going to go down here to our settings, and I'm going to say Copy to Current Document. So this is going to copy it to our current document. If I close out the Bible interface, you'll see it's added this passage right to our teaching notes. Now we can just grab these teaching notes and bring them down into our playlist here, and you'll see that it's added our teaching notes and they're ready to go. Now the last thing that we might want to do is create a pre-show announcement loop of slides or information that you want to show. So let's create another new document. So I'm going to go to Add, New Document, and we're just going to call this our loop, and we're going to set the category of this to Presentation. I'm not really worried about the template that we're using because we're going to bring in all images. So I'm going to hit New. And I'm just going to drag our interface over here, and you'll see I have a folder here. And in my announcement slides, you'll see I have a bunch of different graphics that we're going to use for our pre-show announcements. So I'll just drag those in. And now we can close this out. Let me put our interface back to normal here. And we can delete this first slide because we don't need it. So I'm just going to drag select, and we can delete that. And now we can actually set some timers so that these slides automatically transition. So all we need to do to set a timer and a loop for this is go up here to our timer icon, and then we can set how long do we want these all to be on the screen. So I'm just going to do 3 seconds for demonstration purposes. Now you'll see it's added a 3-second timer to all of our different slides, and you'll notice on this last slide there's an option to loop to the beginning or loop to the first slide. And if you wanted to add this manually to a different slide, all you have to do is right click, go to your Go to Next Timer, and you can add this option here to loop to the beginning. We like it how it is, so I'm just going to hit cancel. So now we can click on this to play it back. I'm actually going to click down here, and you'll notice that as it starts playing back, it's going to automatically go to the next slide, and then when it hits this last slide, it's going to loop right back to the beginning, which is exactly what we want. So this can loop as long as we need it to loop for us. So now we can add this loop to our playlist. So I'm just going to drag this in and put it right before our song set. So now we have a loop here at the beginning, and maybe we want to have that loop happen at the end as well. So now let's talk a little bit more about navigating our playlist and our documents. We have a couple different options. The first one is this playlist only button, which kind of helps remove distractions so we only see the current playlist we're on. We also have a button here for contiguous view. Now when I select the contiguous view, you're going to see that every single document is going to show up in this one view. Now you'll see that we have our headers here, and we can make these a little bit more useful by changing their color so that we can see them stick out a little bit more. So maybe we'll change our song set to this maroon color here or purplish color, and we could scroll down and maybe change our teaching header, and we can change the color here, or we can actually just go over here and right click on this, change header color, and maybe make this like a tealy green blue color. and set that there. So now we have these colorful headers in our contiguous view. That way when we're going through the slide loop here, it's automatically going to loop, but we can move down to our next song and we can click on our traditional view, and now we can go to our traditional version of Amazing Grace and we can start clicking through. Now, not only can we click through a song, but we can also use our space bar to go to the next one. So we can click on the space bar to go to our next slide. We also can use the left and right arrow keys. So I'll hit the right arrow key and that will switch to my next slide, or I can hit the left arrow key to go back. We can use the up and down arrow key to switch between items in our playlist. So I can switch to, Oceans here, and I can hit the right arrow key and that will send me inside of this song. Now we can also set hotkeys for navigation. So if I go to Alive here and let's say I want to have a hotkey for the chorus so that if I ever need to bail and go to the chorus, I can do that easily. And I'm just going to right click and do hotkey, and you'll see that we can insert any of these keys here to go set as a hotkey. So I'm going to enter the key C for chorus and hit OK. And so now anytime I want a quick jump to the chorus, I can just hit the C key and it's going to go to that chorus for me. And another way that you can navigate your document is by punching in a number for your slide. So let's say we wanted to go to the pre-chorus, which is slide 7. I'll just hit the number 7 and enter, and it will go to that slide for me. The last thing that you'll see inside the contiguous view is notes if you've added any notes to your song. So let's say for Alive we wanted to add a note to this song goes quickly. So quick song, watch timing. And so we can add that note, hit enter, and now that note will show up in contiguous view here. So when we get to Alive, our slide operator can see that this is a quick song and we need to watch our timing. Well, congratulations, you just created your first presentation. See, it wasn't that difficult. Now, if you have any questions about how some of the other features work, I want to encourage you to check out all the other tutorials that go in depth into all of the features inside ProPresenter.